Hello everybody and welcome to Autumnwatch 2022. Yes, that's right, we are back all of this week bringing you the very best of British wildlife from across the UK and all of the wonders that this magical season brings. I'm Hannah Stitfall and I'm coming to you live from our Norfolk location, Wild Ken Hill, with our lunchtime show Watch Out every day at 1 PM, and I'll be joined by our presenters. And of course, our live wildlife cameras have already started streaming over on our website, and we've got some brilliant cameras for you this series. They're streaming from 10 AM to 10 PM, so make sure you check them out. But joining me today is Mr. Chris Packham himself. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
How are Here he is. I found him messing around in the woods over there, weren't you?
Yes, I was messing around in the woods. I've been messing around in the woods since I was a small boy.
Yes, it's your favourite place, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what? It is my favourite place, actually, joking aside. Woodland, yeah. We were talking about other parts of the UK which don't have quite as much woodland cover earlier, Jack Badams and I. And we were saying, what would we do if we couldn't go for a walk through the woods? Because you walk on a heathland, on downland, on a beach, but you walk through the woods. Yeah. I like to be enclosed. I like to be cuddled by lots of boughs and branches.
We could go over there if you want, would that be?
Let's press on, sorry.
Okay, so we've got a lot coming up this week, but we're going to play our quiz now. I know you've missed this jingle over the summer. It's time to play What the Flora or Fauna Is That?
What the flora and fauna is that?
So today's clue is it includes your favourite word that begins with C. I know. Well, let me show you this. So this is a nest of a very cute, sorry I said it, a very cute animal. Now, that is your clue today. I'm sure some of you at home will be able to guess this. That's a quite big one. I've got another one in there, actually. We'll show you at the end. Now, if you do get the answers right, please do put them in the comments below because we'll read your name out tomorrow. It's very good modelling of that nest.
Yeah.
Anything to add to the clue? I'm sure you're going to get it at home.
What can I say? Yes, the word that I know what you're talking about now, but the C word. The C word is the cute word. And actually, I'm going to have to say, you're right. You're absolutely right. The once owner of this small, fragile, grassy nest is indeed a very cute animal.
And we've got that live. Fantastic. I didn't think you'd agree with that, but
no,
very
I
good.
can't argue with it.
You're softening.
With you. Yeah,
You're softening.
This one needs a little bit of a rebuild, though. So it needs some restoration.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
I know. They've
This
seen better days.
is a home that's been under the hammer, quite literally. You know, the sledgehammer. Okay.
And as I said at the beginning, we are back with our live wildlife cameras. We've got some great ones, haven't we?
We have already.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Season here, actually. I don't know if you've noticed, but along the hedgerows they're absolutely packed full of berries. There's loads of fruit about, so there's enormous amounts of activity, and we've added to some of that fruit as well, putting out a bait out for some of our birds and mammals to come in.
Well, we're going to go live now. Now, this is fantastic, this. We're going to go live to our back camera in Pembrokeshire. So that's not here in Norfolk. Look at that. Look at them. Now, these are greater horseshoe bats. Now, we've got 18 species of bat here in the UK. We know that 17 of them breed. Now, the greater horseshoes, one of our largest species, about 5 to 7 centimetres in length, and they're also one of our longest living, reach about 30 years old, nearly as old as you.
Yes, almost.
Yeah.
But look at them, the way they're sort of hanging up there, like little sort of winged plums, aren't they? With those long legs. There's something about those horseshoe bats. I mean, firstly, they're rare, of course.
Very
they're
rare,
difficult to see. This is a really significant roost. I think Yolo and Gillian, who are going to be looking at this roost in more detail, are already bragging it's the biggest roost in the UK.
Is it?
Well, that's what they started.
That's what they say?
Well, that's what they're saying,
Okay.
yeah. Let's hope they've done their research. But, I mean, it is absolutely fantastic to see these bats all hung up there like that.
We've had some great views of them already, from about 6 o'clock into the evening. Very good views of them all coming out of that roost. Absolutely beautiful to watch.
Yeah, interesting bat as well, of course. I've seen them in Gloucestershire, and they come out and they fly around fields and they hawk around cattle. So if the cattle are attracting any insects or they're disturbing any insects from the ground in summertime, beetles, large flies, moths, etc., then they will literally fly round and round the cows, even dipping beneath their legs whilst they're snatching the insects. So yeah, entertaining bat.
Oh, Oh, and of course bats will go into hibernation from autumn into early, late spring, but they don't actually go into full hibernation. It's called torpor, isn't it?
Yeah, torpor. They go into torpor, and a lot of people get concerned because they see bats flying about, particularly at this time of year. And one of the things that we've learned that bats do at this time of year is that the adult bats will seemingly teach the young bats of that season where the roost sites are. Now, that's because if they wake up during the course of the winter and they go for a little fly about and then conditions change, they need to be able to get to a roost site. They may be not make it back to the one that they came from. So what they think is happening is that the adult bats will be leading the younger bats to a series of roost sites so that they're familiar with their locations before they go into the full period of torpor in the full winter.
Oh.
Well, that's a thought.
That's a thought. It's a very good thought. And greater horseshoe bats are actually one of the species that, if it is a warm winter's day, they will occasionally wake up, won't they, and have a little look around.
They'll have a look around, and they may move roost site to another roost site at that time. That's one of the things that we've noted, that they will come out of one and then not come back. And they've gone to one of these other roost sites. So they need to know their way around the landscape that they're going to be living in. So don't fret too much. I mean, we're talking about temperatures this week. They're saying it could be as much as 22 degrees. They're saying 20 degrees here, Wednesday, Thursday here. In Norfolk, so that's very seasonal, and it's not going to be a surprise. I mean, we were out here last night, we had bats, so I had nocturnal and presumably a pipistrelle flying around last night. So lots of activity at the moment with these animals.
Very warm indeed. And now we're going to have a look at our beaver camera. Now, of course, we're not going to see any beavers now. They are mainly nocturnal or crepuscular, so you see them at dawn and dusk. But as you can see, we've been evaded a bit by the beavers here, haven't we? But the site here, their enclosure, is the second largest in the UK. It's 55 acres. So they have given us a bit of a runaround before. But this feeding platform has been put up by Wild Ken Hill so that they can better monitor the beavers here. And look at that, it's a smorgasbord,
well,
isn't it?
They've been a bit mean with the apples there, I think, to be quite honest with you. You know, look at it, honestly. It looks like a sort of a market trader's barrow has got washed into the beaver lake. It's strewn with an abundance of tasty fruit, you know, sweetening fruit, isn't it? Fantastic, yes. And the beavers, I mean, beavers, as you know, fully herbivorous animals. This time of year, doing their best to nibble off the rest of those fresh shoots, because in the winter time they've got obviously less choice of food, and they will cache food at the bottom of their lake, of course, but they're not going to resist this, are they?
I wouldn't resist that if I was a beaver.
Beavers flying from other parts of the UK. This will be some sort of beaver mini break.
And we, and at our beaver mini break site, we've already had some good views of them, haven't we?
Well, we have, yeah. We think they're the kits that we've seen on here so far. It's difficult to assess. Well, we're not seeing them in the daytime. Let's be honest about that. No. We're seeing them at night when they're activity, using our infrared cameras. So yeah, those that we've seen so far, we think are the kits. Now, one of the things that we don't know is how many beavers there are in there. It's 50 acres, as you say, a very big site. We know what went in. That nature can take its course, and some of those animals might have died. We know that they bred, so there's certainly animals that have been added to our little captive population here, and that's one of the reasons why Wild Ken have put this feeding platform up, because they will come to it with these apples here, and then we'll get a sense of who's living in there at this point in time.
Very good indeed. So remember, our live wildlife cameras are streaming till 10 p.m. at night, so after the show on BBC Two tonight, make sure you go and give them a watch. So now let's head to our hedgerow cam. Now, we've got a few different views. Oh, look, live.
Great tit there, look.
Beautiful. Oh, gorgeous. Now, we've got a few different views of the hedgerow cams across site, haven't we?
We have.
A few different ones, but these are great, especially this time of year. As you like the hedgerow, full of ivy still, full of berries, which is great for our insects.
That was good, wasn't it?
That was lovely, really nice. So we're hoping to get some small mammals on here as well.
Yeah, we've got several cameras in the hedgerow, some at sort of, I don't know, bird level, and some at mammal level down on the ground. And despite the abundance of natural fruit in those hedgerows at the moment, of course, everything likes a free meal. So we're hoping...
I do.
Yeah. What's your favourite free meal?
Anything that's going, to be honest.
Do you know what I had the other day? I had, for the first time in my life, I don't know why I'd never thought of this before, but someone's beaten us to it in a restaurant, a chip platter.
Stop it.
No, seriously. Right, so it was a plate of chips, potato chips, right? And there were 6 different types of chip on the platter. Some of them had paprika on them. Yeah. Some of them were thick cut. You know,
did you have any curly fries?
Some of them were fries, curly
fries.
fries.
Oh, curly fries, I'm there.
A chip platter. Oh, so good.
How big was this chip platter?
It was about the size. It was like this. I mean, it was a generous proportion of chips for, you know, and we all sort of tucked in and then we all said, oh no, this is my favourite chip. Yeah. Oh, it's such a good idea.
You need to tell me where you got that from. Very nice. So our hedgerow cam is basically a chip platter, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a free meal, and of course, a lot of the small mammals at this time of year, and the birds as well, will be caching.
Yes.
So one of the reasons it's so busy is they're not coming and eating it, and you know, and then going off and waiting until they get hungry. They see an opportunity. They see a lot of food in one place. They think, right, this is a chance, and they'll be caching it. So they're backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Of course, the great tits will be doing that as well. So it's not just the small mammals that cache. The members of the tit family do the same.
Lovely stuff. And now we do have another live wildlife camera. We're not going to go to it live now because it is the middle of the day. But if you remember back to Spring Watch, we had a barn owl nest box, didn't we? We had 5 owlets in there.
Yep.
Now we have...
Oh, what's just flown in?
This is a barn owl. Now this was recorded last night.
This is recorded last night.
It's recorded last night. Well, we've got to show the owl.
Yes, no, that's fine. Sorry, you just fooled me. I thought, oh, that's remarkable good fortune when that happened.
It's not. This isn't live now, everybody. Okay. But this
not
is last
live.
Tucking into a lovely tasty bowl there, and of course the habitat here at Wild Ken Hill, all these open fields, is great for barn owls, great for kestrels as well, because the small mammal abundance here is very good. So lovely to see. And we identified that that's a barn owl we were following in spring?
We have.
We have.
They were both ringed, and we've had sufficiently good views of this one now to know it's the female owl.
Oh, is it? Mm-hmm. There we go.
Still there on her winter territory, which is great, showing that, as you said, there's plenty of food here. Yeah. Not going to move unless there's problems with the weather. Doesn't look like that if it's going to be 20 degrees, certainly at this part of the year. And yeah, good to see them sticking in there and still getting plenty of food.
Very good. And remember, you can watch our live wildlife camera streaming on our website, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. up until 9 p.m. this Friday. Now, as always, our audience are fantastic, and we asked you to send in some of your fungi photos this series, and they've delivered. We've got a real excellent array.
Is it a
of
fungal platter? Is it
could
going to rival the chip platter?
Do you know what? It was going to be called a fungi festival, but now we're going to call it a fungi platter. How
Not
about
that we
that?
are suggesting that you should eat these.
No, don't eat them. Don't eat them. We've got over 15,000 species of fungi here in the UK, and many of them can be toxic, and just don't eat them.
Here's a fact.
Don't eat them.
Right, here's a fact. Now, I'm not a mycologist of any great repute, but someone who, a mycologist of great repute, once told me that 1% are edible, i.e. that you can eat them and they taste good. 98% you can eat, but they taste indifferent or not very good.
Not worth it.
And then 1% are seriously toxic. Okay? So the vast majority of them are not edible, and you wouldn't want to eat them. But of course, you know, being able to discern, particularly as so many of these fruiting bodies are very similar, is best left to an absolute expert.
Yes, absolutely. So we don't encourage anybody to go out and eat fungi, but if you do have photos, please send them in to us. And this has been sent in to us by James LaRue on Facebook, and this was taken in the New Forest, your neck of the woods. Some green elf cups. Look at them, aren't they gorgeous? Now they're tiny, aren't they? They're about 2 to 6 millimetres
talking
in
to the
diameter.
wrong bloke. You know, you're talking to the wrong bloke. Because I've never seen them. I'm not joking. So all the time,
this because I thought you would have seen them.
I know. So what we see is that they're normally growing on fallen dead oak.
Yes.
And what happens is that they stain the oak. So as you're walking through the forest, you may on occasion see like a piece of rotten wood, which is like a sort of a petrol green colour. And that's the result of the activity of the green elf cup fungus, like this. So I find that all of the time, out there with Sid and Nancy, scuffing through the leaves, looking for something we didn't ought to be looking for. And then we find the green oak, and of course that was, for many years, was used in marquetry. I can't say it properly.
Marquetry?
Yeah. You know what it is?
That'll do.
Slicing up little bits of wood and making pictures with it, inlaid. And they used the Alf Cup oak for all of the green that they wanted in those inlays to make those pictures. So for the leaves and bushes and grass and things like that.
Yeah.
But the actual fruiting bodies, I've never seen them. Apparently they're really hard to see. You know, they're tiny, they're short-lived.
I was reading they're quite widespread.
Yeah.
But seeing them is very, very difficult.
Yeah, so envious of that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah, thank you, James LaRue. Thank you very much for that. So next up, we've got Julian Cartwright on Facebook, based in Wolverhampton. Sent us this in. It's a fluted bird's nest fungi one I'd love to see.
Look at that.
Love to see.
Got to be honest, put my hand up again, never seen it.
Oh, Chris.
Always wanted to. I saw these in the wildlife and natural history books that I had when I was a kid, and I always wanted to see them, never seen them. Look at the structure, just like a little nest, and there at the bottom, those little ovoids there, which make it look like those are eggs. You can see how it got its name. And of course the purpose of the cup is that these are receptacles of water. So the idea is that when it rains, the water splashes into the cup, and it's that which disperses the spores. So they're spore splash.
Don't they eject out and then they've got a kind of tail with a bit of slime on them that attaches to twigs?
Yeah, the spore has that,
Yeah.
but in order to get out, it needs rain to get out. It's not going to drift on the air, like, you know, the ones which are typical, I think of a typical mushroom, and you flip it over and it's got all the gills on it.
Yeah.
Well, the gills release the spores beneath the mushroom, nice and dry, so they don't get stuck together.
Yeah.
As they drop out of the gills, a waft of wind through the woodland blows those hundreds of thousands, millions of spores away. But these are rain dispersed.
Very good. It's one I'd really like to see and that I haven't yet. See one
Yes,
one day. See
yes,
one one day.
yes.
Talking of, oh no, we've got, this has come in. This is a personal favourite of mine. This is from Amelia Coffin on Facebook, and this was taken in Dorset. This is a dog stinkhorn. Look at that.
Oh yeah, I've seen these. I've seen. You see them because you smell them.
Yeah.
And the challenge when you smell them, they have a very pungent, very characteristic odour, is then finding it. Because if you're wandering around a sort of damp bracken-filled woodland and you catch a whiff of a stinkhorn, trying to actually find the fruiting body can be quite tricky because the smell is so powerful and it drifts over quite a large area. And these are different. So the top part of the fungus there that you can see in the foreground is covered initially with a slime. And the smell is to attract flies. So this one, the spores are dispersed by insects. The flies arrive, drawn by the smell. They land on the tip of that fungus, and they have a little probe with their proboscis, and when they're bored, they fly off, and they've got the spores stuck on their feet. And then they land, of course, as they would in other parts of the woodland, and it's that disperses the spores.
Right.
And there you can see
Look at
the side of it. Very fragile. I mean, these get munched by molluscs in a really short order. So they emerge very quickly. Initially, there's a membrane over the top of that front part. That breaks up and fragments. Then it's all sort of sticky on the top. The flies come in, and with a lot of fly activity, they can take all the spores away in the course of like a day.
In a day?
Yeah, a day or two, and then you go back, and the following day or the day after, it's all been munched by slugs.
I was reading they're quite often found around badger sets.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was reading that, but that
Oh.
would make sense because if
The flies come to the
flies
latrines
come-
for the latrines, so the flies are obviously going to go drawn by other smells in the woodland. So badger feces in a latrine might be a temptation for a fly. I hadn't noted that, having visited lots of badger sets, but always a treat to see these. So there's a range of different species in the UK, and they have some interesting scientific names. So we'll leave you. You can look those up on the internet when we finish.
And finally, as part of our fungi platter, this is sent in to us by Jen Whittle on Facebook, and this is a bracket fungi releasing spores. Now, I'm not quite sure of the species. I think we've got over 15 species here in the
at
UK.
least of
Not
brackets,
sure of
yeah.
that one, but if you look at that closely, it was almost like a rainbow of the spores wafting.
Yeah, well,
as
they
you
don't have
said.
gills, they have tubes. And of course, some of those bracket fungi are quite rigid, hard. You know, you can knock them and they sound like a piece of wood. They're so hard. But they have tubes that drop the spores down rather than the typical gills. And they can be really robust, those fungi, some of those.
Very good, very good. Well, also, we just want to add the Wiltshire Wildlife Trust are actually running a fungi finding citizen survey project this autumn because fungi fruits in such a short period of time.
does, yeah.
There's actually a lack of data in the Wiltshire area, and they've got a really handy ID guide, and it's really easy to upload your fungi pictures to their website. So head over to our website to take a look at that, and if you're not in the Wiltshire area, send them to us because we love to see them, don't we?
We do.
Love to see them.
Some of the fungal fruiting bodies are very, very beautiful.
They're amazing. It's the time of year. But now, from one of our most colourful autumn spectacles to now, our largest land mammal in the UK, yes, bison, are back in England. Now, 3 females were introduced in July this year, and it's part of a pioneering rewilding project run by the Kent Wildlife Trust and the Wildwood Trust. So they're fantastic ecosystem engineers, aren't they? Really, really good. And they're hoping that the area they've been reintroduced back to, it's going to benefit all of biodiversity and turn the forests into what they once were. But a couple of weeks ago, there was a surprise.
The bison burst.
One of the female bison gave birth. Yes. So this, take a look at this. This is the first baby bison born in England in thousands and thousands of years. How
Having a
about
great
that?
time. Look at it. It's running around like a poodle.
It does look a bit like Sid or Nancy though, doesn't it?
Oh,
Running around having a lovely
Very
time.
excited. Look at that.
Look at
What
the
a
face.
sensational thing that is.
Now, the rangers didn't actually know that the female was pregnant, and that's because female bisons, they will conceal their pregnancies to avoid predation from their natural predators such as wolves in the wild. So the rangers didn't know, so it was a huge surprise when one started giving birth. But there is a male bison joining this herd at the end of next month, so hopefully we'll have more bison.
Look at that.
It's lovely,
It's
isn't it?
sensational, isn't it? I like these sorts of pioneering, brave projects where people stick their neck out and they try something new. The world's in a terrible state at the moment, and you know we know what we need to do to fix it. And one of the things we need to do is take some ecological risks.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've just got to take a punt at stuff and see what happens. And you know what happens is your bison gives birth, and in a process of you know quite a few years, it will transform that forest landscape into something which is much richer. Yeah. So hats off to both of those trusts. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. I want to go and see them.
Yes, so do I.
Yeah,
It'd be great, wouldn't
let's
it?
go next year. We'll go. Right. As always, you've been sending us in your questions, and we asked for some of your unusual finds this series. And again, you haven't disappointed. This has been sent in to us by Claire Tuck on Facebook. This is apple blossom in October. That's very odd, isn't it?
It is odd, but it's increasingly frequent, sadly, not just here, but in other parts of the world. And the general consensus is that it's caused by stress. That the plant, the tree in this instance, will flower again due to stress. And the most common stress when it comes to fruit trees, which seems to get them producing flowers in the autumn, is drought.
Oh, is it?
Yes, drought. So we see a lot of that in northeastern America, where there are still large orchards, and they've reported this year after drought that they're seeing a lot more autumnal blossom, and we're starting to see some of it here in the UK. But it's certainly a response to the plant being under stress. I mean, basically what it's trying to do is reproduce before it dies, I suppose. Not that plant's making any conscious choice about that, but that must be the strategy. But what we see in those fruiting trees like that is normally it's drought, and of course across many parts of the UK we had drought throughout the spring and summer. So do keep your eye on any of those bushes or trees which would typically only be fruiting in the springtime. You might see a bit of blossom.
We've had hawthorn blossoming a few weeks ago in Cornwall.
There we are, you see.
Yeah.
Very similar, I suppose.
Very similar. Crazy. Well, thank you very much for that, Claire. And now, this isn't that unusual, but it's a really good photograph and not seen that often. This is a red squirrel. Thank you very much, Gary Pinder on Facebook, for sending this in to us, eating some fungi. Now, of course, this time of year, red squirrels, they'll be making their winter caches with acorns and hazelnuts, but they are partial to a bit of fungi as well, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I mean, quite a lot of mammals will use some fungi in their diet. There aren't many obligate fungivores, you know, those that only eat fungi, or a vast proportion of their diet. There is one I remember, again in northeastern America actually, which I went to work with a few years ago, a flying squirrel. I think it's a greater flying squirrel, and that one eats an enormous amount of fungi. It eats other things too, seeds, and it will cache them in the autumn. But it's feeding on a lot of fungi. And they're flying squirrels, well, gliding obviously. So they climb up a tree, and then if they feel the need to get to another tree a little bit more quickly, or they're escaping a predator, they have a membrane between their forelimbs and hind limbs, which they spread out like a wingsuit and glide. Anyway, what I noticed was when they were flying about is they were climbing up a tree, and then they were flying to this other tree, and they're climbing up this tree and flying to the same tree, exactly the same tree every time, and they were landing at about that high off the ground. So what I did cunningly, I waited for a squirrel to glide down, I ran to that tree and I hid behind it, and then when I saw the squirrel on the other tree, as it jumped, I then whipped around like that.
Of course you did.
Stood, and the squirrel glided down, landed on my chest, and then scrambled up my head onto the tree. Oh, so good! So good, honestly.
Thanks for that.
The question is, though, but here's the thing, because I know people will ask this, right? How is it that these animals, we've talked about some of our fungal species being toxic and very dangerously toxic to humans. Why is it that the mammals can eat those? And we very often see, species of fruiting fungi, which we know are dangerous to us, okay, being eaten by things like deer, squirrels, obviously invertebrates, mollusks, and so forth. How can they do it? Well,
I don't know.
Well, we don't fully know the answer, but we think that one thing is that they will take in certain nutrients and minerals which will nullify the toxins, and also that many of them have a bacterial flora in their gut, which is set up basically to reduce the toxicity of the fungi that they eat.
Oh.
So if your dog eats them, or we eat them, they can be really toxic to us, very dangerous. But if squirrels and deer eat them, because they've been eating them for sufficiently long periods of time, they've acquired a bacterial component which helps to reduce the toxicity of the fungi.
We need to do a film about that for
Well,
a TV show.
Yeah, more research is possibly required, but that's the general consensus.
Yeah, if you are researching fungi, get in touch with us. That sounds great. Right, so listen, we're running out of time. It is now time to play our quiz. What the flora or fauna is that?
What the flora and fauna is that?
So this was our clue today. I'm going to put these down because we've actually got two of them, and the clue involved this animal is very cute, and this is its nest, and I'm sure, let's have a look, let's get them in there. There we go. And the answer was, of course, a harvest mouse nest. Now, as you said, they are cute, aren't they?
They are, the mice,
cute.
Yeah. The nests are a bit ragged, actually.
Well,
but,
they've had better days. I've been messing around with them.
Yeah.
But this one, now, hold up, keep that out,
Right.
I've got some facts for you now.
Right.
So this one here, you see, it's a bit larger. This is a breeding nest, so this will only be used for a couple of weeks in the year. But this one that I've got, the tiny diddy one, this is a solitary nest. So this will be used by the males and the females throughout the year. And that.
But they're on their own in there.
Yeah, they're on their own in there.
You can see them in there, can't you, on their little
Yeah.
phones on Tinder,
Yeah.
scanning around for
Well-
any other harvest mice in the area.
Well, the males will actually have quite a few of these dotted around the territory whilst he's searching for females. So he probably is on Tinder.
Little
to be honest.
bachelor pad
Yeah,
in there. Flat screen TV, watching the Mouse Olympics.
Exactly that. And the Mammal Society have very kindly sent these in to us because they are starting their harvest mouse nest survey this year. Now, they do it over winter so that they don't disturb the harvest mice. And it's really, really important because harvest mice, they've declined a lot in the last sort of 40 years. They're now a threatened species. And by monitoring these nests over the winter gives us a really better understanding of their population numbers and distribution. And if you want to get involved with that, just head over to our website with all the details.
Okay, so the idea is you go out looking for these little nests. And although
Yeah.
this may look next to impossible to find once it's in the vegetation, but they make them up off the ground, and sometimes if they're on the edges of bramble or dock clumps and things like that, you can see them relatively well with a bit of furtive searching.
Furtive searching.
We love that. That is part and parcel of our trade, furtive searching. It's something that we get qualifications in. I remember getting my first GCSE in furtive searching. Did quite well. Went on to study furtive searching at university. You will find these. So they're not quite as impossible to find as you might think they are.
Look in tussocky grass.
Yep.
Tussocky, long grass. I'd actually had a look for these before and I couldn't find any, but I'm obviously...
Well, maybe there were none there.
No, this is true.
I'll tell you another way. We used to find harvest mice, the presence or absence of harvest mice when I was a kid. Think about it. They're very difficult to spot.
Yeah.
For us, but not so difficult to spot for things like barn owls. They eat them, and then you get the pellets and you find their skulls in the pellets. And my first awareness of being in an area where there were harvest mice was picking up barn owl pellets and finding their skulls inside and knowing they were there.
Wow.
Just saying.
Just saying.
Just throwing it in there.
But if you want to take part in the nest survey, head over to our website to find out more. So, Chris, what have you got coming up tonight?
Furtive searching, probing in the
In
woodland.
this area?
Yeah.
This area just behind us? Great.
Tonight we're obviously laying out our stall for the next 4 nights.
The platter.
And the platter, our plateau indeed, yeah. And so we've got a bit of, autumn, what's been going on, what is going to happen. We had a bit of a false autumn in the summer, so we're talking about what that was about, really, and then looking at our own autumn. Of course, we'll be on those live cameras, hoping for a bit of beaver action. Otters on the river, we've had them before,
Yes,
keeping
yeah,
our eyes
yeah.
peeled for that. And then let's not forget Gillian and Yolo over in Wales there.
They are,
So
yeah.
they've been out and about, and they've been out into Cardigan Bay looking for cetaceans and seals. Yolo's been doing a spot of canoeing on the river.
Of course he has.
Of course he has.
Of course he has.
And then, of course, we've been out and around the UK for about the last couple of months making stories, and we've been focusing on the little things as well as the big things. So we've got a fantastic film tonight about a thing called the ivy spider. Small but just beautiful. A tiny, tiny little green spider. The spider is about that big, right? So, that big is about 1.5 millimetres.
I mean, it's tiny.
For its,
It's
the
tiny.
length of head to opistoma, tip of opistoma. Don't get that on any other channel, do you? The tip of opistoma. Basically, but it's capable of killing things up to the size of a wasp. Coming to ivy at this time of year, taking advantage of that last flush of nectar before the winter, and the tiny ivy spider comes out, and it's game over for the wasp.
Well, thank you very much for that, Chris. You have to tune in at 8 p.m. tonight on BBC Two to see that ivy spider. I'll be back tomorrow here at 1 p.m. with Michaela. Have a lovely one. You have a lovely one.
Thanks so much. I'm going to be off. I'm going down to furtively search for food in the canteen.
I need a
vegan chip platter is coming my way.
Come on then, let's go. Bye.